Hey everybody, Swifty here, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about my favorite team, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Everybody has different opinions on this team, what plagues them, what their strengths are, but I'm going to give my take, and it's a little bit of a different take. Nobody's been talking about this at all, and I decided that I would be the first to discuss it. Uh, it's an issue about the team that just doesn't really come up. And to me, it should be at the forefront, and it should have been at the forefront of the Toronto Maple Leafs offseason, and it wasn't addressed at all. I guess there's still time left, but training camps are about to open, so I don't see what I believe to be the problem being addressed immediately. So let's get into it a bit. And the first thing I want to just discuss is how the team looks right now on paper. Um, so Matthews, Tavares, Marner, they're all making about 11 million. That's to be expected for another 2-3 years. You know, Nylander's got another 2, it's 7 mil. And then there's a dramatic drop off on the forward cap. And then on defense, it's spent a little bit more. There's a little bit more spent, I guess, all around, but it's still not heavy spending on the blue line. You know, Riley's making 7.5. I like the deal. Some people don't. They don't like the term, but I think he'll age okay. I think he'll be okay. I don't see a massive drop off from Morgan Riley significantly. Some defenders play till, 40 and they still play at a high level. So I don't see a significant drop off. I know the contract may on the back end not look great, but and then you got Muzzin, who's kind of dropped off. Brody, he's solid all around. Hall, a lot of people wanted him cut. Giordano, he blessed the Leafs with that deal. Rasmus Sandin still unsigned. And then you got the goaltending, which is obviously everybody hates what the Leafs did in net. Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov. I saw some people on Twitter trying to get excited about Matt Murray, but to me, it's not. It's a risk, and it's a huge risk, and I would say it's like 70-30 it doesn't work out, maybe even more. That's being generous. Maybe 80-20 it doesn't work out. So that's how they look, and they're over the cap right now by 1.5 million. So we'll get to how they're going to fix the team a little bit. This is what I think might happen. I have some omissions at the bottom. Sandin's right now unsigned. I don't know what he's going to get paid. And the Leafs probably got to make a move to get him on roster, right? If they want that. Simmons, Gaudette, Ben, Mete, Wool. They are omitted from this list. But I guess I called up Nick Robertson and Abruzzese for now, making a little bit more youthful on the bottom six. But, we just squeaked over the cap. So, a lot can change. I'm not saying this is what the roster is going to be or what the final roster is going to look like, but this is how I think it's going to look. Maybe it could be different. Abruzzese could be in the minors playing a full season or whatever, but I think it's definitely time for Nick Robertson to make the roster. But this is how I perceive it to be. This is how it's been for a while. So, anyways, let's move on. Part one, the perceived problem. So the perceived problem of the team, this is what everybody always points to when it comes to the Leafs and what their major issues are. A lot of people have different takes on it. Some people point towards the defense, for instance, right? And the defense, the way it looks, there's the highly criticism of not having that big right shot, right D, guy that could play that side, eat a lot of minutes. We don't have that on the way. Topi Niemela's good, but is he going to be that? Who knows? They're very young. Is Liljegren going to emerge into that? Likely not. But TJ Brody does play the right. So it's not all bad, or as bad as people perceive it to be. Liljegren Giordano is a nice little pairing. Muzzin Hall, I would say they're more third, but this has been the major problem that people say about the Leafs the entire time. But I don't think it's that big of an issue. when it comes to the Leafs. I know I may get roasted for this, but I think they have like a middle of the pack defense. And I think that's okay for what they're trying to do. But I don't necessarily see this as the biggest issue of the Leafs. Could it be better? Sure. But do I see it as a major problem or something that's preventing them from winning a Stanley Cup? I don't think so. And then obviously the goaltending. The last couple of seasons, it hasn't really been a major issue. Jack Campbell, the last 2 seasons, stepped up. There was no issues in the playoffs. And then before that, it was Frederik Andersen who provided the Leafs with goaltending that they needed as well. So the last couple of seasons, it hasn't been an issue. People really weren't pointing towards it. But this season definitely people are saying that it is an issue, and I understand that. Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov. Samsonov, he's young, he has a lot of potential. It's a lot of potential. If Matt Murray can find any semblance of himself again, then he'll be fine. But and there's nothing on the way. Joseph Wall, Shalgren, Hiddleby, I don't think so. Wall, I think, is on a one-way deal too, so that's interesting, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I could see Wall playing minutes if one of those two get hurt, and Murray, he's injury prone, so he probably will be hurt. But I like I said, there's a lot of potential in that. Obviously, if Matt Murray can get some form again, he could be the guy and solidify that position. But again, I don't necessarily see that happening. And Samsonov, young potential. It'll be interesting the way the goaltending plays out. But again, maybe this season it's an issue, but the last couple of seasons, I don't perceive this to be the biggest issue of the Leaf. And I'm talking about overall what the trends I've seen. So that's primarily what I'm trying to discuss today. And when it comes to that, we're going to get into the actual problem that I perceive the Leafs to have. And it's not what you'd expect. And I know that the Leafs always rank in the top in goals for, right? They score a lot, right? But I perceive the issue to be the forward core and the lack of depth beyond the top 6. If you look at the cap structure, Matthews, Tavares, Nylander, and Marner, they make up majority. But beyond that, you can't really say there's a guy that would drive his own line. If you look at Bunting, for instance, he plays in the top 6. He's a role player in the top 6, and he fits in well on that top line. That's Bunting's job. But when it comes to the playing driving his own line, I don't think he's that player. Kerfoot, he can't do that. As we've seen, he had a brutal game 7. I think he's a role player. Beyond that, there's just, to me, who am I circling exactly that could drive a line? The third line, and the answer is nobody. And it's not just driving a line; it's producing offense in key situations. And I don't see anybody that can do it. And you may be thinking to yourself, well, why are you saying this is an issue? This is not an issue. The Leafs top in goals, in the regular season, sure. The Leafs are going to score. Matthews is going to get a 60. Tavares is going to get 30 to 40. Marner may get around 25, 30. Nylander around 30. Sure. That's where the majority of the goals are coming from. Everybody else, maybe 15 or below. But the reason why I speak about this being the issue is because they don't score when it matters. And that's the major problem that I see with the Leafs. And you have this potent offense that can't get it done in crunch time. Right? And that's my major argument as to why the forward core is not what it should be. And, when you pay the top guys to play, score, and they don't produce when it matters, then what's it all about, right? And we'll get into that in a moment. But, looking back from 2017, the beginning of this core, the trio, Matthews, Marner, and Nylander, 2017 Game 7, 1 goal. Okay, fine. That was Matthews who scored that. Okay, fine. No arguments. It's fine. It was the start of the run. And then 2018, it's like, okay, 4 goals. They gave up 7. They collapsed that game. They were up 4-3, I believe, heading into it was another collapse. They were up 4-3, I believe, heading into the third, and then just it caved in on them. Okay, so this is where the trend begins. 2019, first Tavares season. Goals for 1, goals against 5. Okay, the goals against could get better. But then 2020, 2021, and 2022, 0-1-1, and they didn't give up much. They gave up 3 and 2. 3 goals. It's not terrible. It's not a terrible amount to let in, but when you have the league's quote unquote highest rated offense, then 3 goals shouldn't be an issue to score at the bare minimum. But the Leafs in crunch time, as you could say here, only in 2018 they scored more than 1 goal. So this is what I perceive the issue to be, because our big boys that we're paying are not getting it done. And what I mean by that is, if you look at the points per game in Game 7 of each player, like Nylander, 0.5 and 6, that's point per game. Tavares, he only had 1 goal in 4 games in Game 7, or in an elimination game, I should say. It's the final game of the season. That's what I'm talking about here. 0.25 points. That's what he's producing in an elimination game. Like in the biggest game of the season. The final game is the biggest game of the season. Marner, 0.33. He's 2 assists. And then Matthews, 0.5 and 6. So 3 points. It's just not enough. It's not enough for the Leafs right now. They need more to supplement these guys, because if you look at it, let's take for example Tampa Bay this season. Nick Paul, the role player on the third line for the Tampa Bay Lightning, stepped up and scored 2 goals to win them that Game 7. We did not have that same secondary scoring. When these guys aren't producing, I do not trust the bottom 6 to find a way to score. It was Mikheyev, Engvall, and Kampf. I don't trust. They're a good shutdown line. They bring energy, but that's a 4th line, in my opinion. That is not going to score when you need it. And a player like Nick Paul has a shot and can get the job done. So, again, and if you look at Tampa Bay the last couple seasons, and you look at some other teams, Tampa Bay always had a third line, and that's why they've always gone deep. Because they had the secondary scoring beyond their top 6 to get the job done. So it's definitely something to look at, and I don't feel the Leafs addressed it in the offseason, because we got no players that could score in crunch time. Like, is Cal Yarncroc going to do it? No. Right? So that's my major argument and the problem with the Maple Leafs. I think it's the scoring. We didn't do anything to fix that. Who knows? Like, maybe something's up Dubas' sleeve that he hasn't done yet, and that's why Sandin is still here. But there's still some work to be done. There's some trades to be done still before the season, but it just hasn't got to that point yet. So we'll see what this guy has, but I think he didn't address our biggest need, and that was scoring, secondary scoring. When the big guys aren't going, it's up to the third line to get it done. So let's move into it a bit here, and I just want to talk about one other thing: the window, quote unquote, the window. Okay, so when it comes to the window, this is what we're looking at. Okay, and this is what people perceive the window to be. Okay, Matthews, 2 years. That's all he has left before he gets massive payments. Same with Nylander. He's going to get a raise. This is what people perceive it to be. And I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that at all, because quite frankly, I think this is the window. I think beyond their contracts is the real window. It's a chance to start fresh, and it's a chance. Like, they only have 9.6 committed on the books from 2025 onward, and that's when everybody's contract is going to be renegotiated. So what I mean by that is, when you look at it and you go back for a second, Tavares is making 11. That's not going to stick in his next deal. Like, he needs to be a captain and take a pay cut. That needs to happen. He cannot be back on that ticket. And obviously Matthews, I think he's just going to get 14 around there no matter what. This is assuming everybody re-signs, by the way. Marner, I hope he takes a hometown discount and he doesn't go for like crazy amounts. He doesn't want Matthews money, but I have no reason to believe that's the case. But Nylander, I could see him wanting 9 to 10, which will be an issue, and I don't know if he's going to be here throughout the duration, but and all the defensive contracts are up. So you have a chance to, and the goaltending as well, but you have a chance to remake the roster from here on. And, you got Riley, you got a good foundational piece. Yarncroc, he's got 1 year left, so it's not too big of a deal, but this is a chance to reshape the players and the way the roster is constructed and the third line and the defense core. There's going to be a lot of cap available. It's not like everybody's locked in forever. But the reason why I say the window isn't now, and people are like, oh, they're young, they're in their prime. Sure. You can't. I think they're in a competitive window, but I don't think they're in a championship window. I think there's two different things. And, for me, I think this group mirrors what the Washington Capitals are. And it may be a while until they win. Like, you got to remember something here. Ovi was 32 when he got his Stanley Cup. He was 32 years old. Right? And that Washington group was around 30, like Backstrom 30, Carlson 28, Kuznetsov was 25, a little bit younger, Oshie 31. There was some other players like mixed in, like a younger Tom Wilson, a younger a Kuznetsov. Orlov was aged decently. Niskanen at the time was really good. So this group took a while to find its footing and get into its prime. It was 30-32. Like, that was their top pieces. And our guys here, they're fairly young. Like, they're fairly young. They're nowhere near 30. I know Tavares is aging, but I don't expect him to get that cap by the time the window ends, like I have outlined here, right? But Matthews is still young. Marner is still young. They're nowhere near 30, and that's where I think the window may be because of what the cap what awaits the Leafs. They're going to have they're going to restack the deck. They're going to have a lot more cap to work with, all their contracts. There's going to be a lot more options come 2025, in my opinion, than now, because they're kind of locked into what they have now. Whereas I think Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Riley will probably all be clicking around the same pace even as they age 3 years from now. They're going to be like more mature, so, and they'll have more cap to work with in the sense that it won't be tied up to all these role players or defensive pieces. They'll have a chance to restructure how things are done with the Leafs. Is Dubas going to be running it? If he doesn't get the cup within 3 years, I don't think it's going to be his team to rework. But, and it's not even just get the cup, it's show progress. And the Leafs haven't shown any progress. You could say on the ice, oh, they're tougher and they played smarter, but they haven't won anything. And that's what progress is in this business, right? So, yeah. And on the way, if we were to mirror the Washington model, we got a guy like Matthew Knies. He's a guy like Tom Wilson that could mirror what he brought at a younger age, around that age. Amirov, apparently he's going to be back this season, so that's I'm so happy. He's one of the guys I really loved that the Leafs drafted, and I was broken up to hear about his cancer diagnosis, but I'm very thrilled. He's a guy everybody should be rooting for. I'm so happy that he's on the track to recovery and playing again. No expectations though. I just wish him good health. Hervinen, in World Juniors finish, he was very good. Abruzzese, a lot of hope around him. He had a good college career. Steves, a lot of people are hopeful for. Palmberg, I think his name is. Holmberg, sorry. I think, yeah. Robertson, obviously, is another people everybody has high hopes for. So they do have young players on the way to supplement these guys. And I think in a few years, when they're still on their ELC and some of the big contracts are coming up, there's a good chance to rework. You look at Verana, and then you look at Wilson. I think we have that kind of element in the system. So there's a lot of parallels there. And just to conclude, I think, like I said, the biggest issue for me is the forward core on the Leafs. When it matters in crunch times, as I showed, they barely get a goal. And that's it. So something needs to be done to supplement the big pieces where you have a third line that can score instead of having a third line that can't really produce when it matters. And having a great third line causes matchup issues for the other team. When Gaudreau and Coleman were going with they were one of the best lines in the league in the playoffs because of what they brought. They brought a physical element that can also score. Does the Mikheyev, Engvall, and Kampf line bring that element physically? Yes, but do they bring it offensively? Definitely not. And I think you need that if you're the Leafs to have a third line that can go out and be effective, but also be able to chip in offensively when it counts. And I think that needs to be addressed in some capacity. I don't know how they fix it. I'm not the GM. I'm just pointing out what I see that was an issue in crunch time. And, for me, in a couple of years, when the cap is clean and there's only 9.6 committed, I think that's a key opportunity for whoever management is to obviously they're going to rework some contracts if everybody signs. That's a big if. You got Matthews, Marner, Nylander, and Tavares. They're all going to need new contracts. I don't know how it's going to look, but it's also a chance to start fresh again with all the role pieces and all the role players and really figure things out, and just because they're in their prime and producing well, you're in your competitive window, but that doesn't mean you're in your championship window, as I said before. And I don't believe the Leafs are in their championship window. I think they need more time. And everybody's so they hate that saying time. They've had so much time, so much learning. It's not about learning. It's just the way the cap is. It'll probably go up more because I've seen the Montreal Canadiens just put sponsors on their jerseys, which is that's a different issue. But I do expect the cap to rise more as we come out of COVID. And around that time, we could be looking at 85 to, apparently they projected at 84. It could be upwards of 85. Who knows? With some of the new things, some of the new ways the league's generating revenue. So I just think the cap right now is just not in our favor to do anything. It's just we don't have depth. And so that's my take on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Different take. A lot of people, they're like, oh, the defense, oh, the goaltending. Man, I'm pointing at the forward core. They cannot get it done in crunch time. They need another forward or two that could score. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to like if you liked it. Subscribe as well. Subscribe to me follow me on Twitch. It's different on Twitch. And I'm going to try making videos like this going forward. So if you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments. And we'll see you all next time. Peace.